product, what would you be realizing? I mean, does it mean the specific causes? You don't know exactly what causes this particular sound. You just hear the sound. Where's it coming from? But you know it's a sound. But you don't know the exact cause and conditions of a specific sound. I don't know.
I think that was
You're realizing sound in general, aren't you? Not
yeah.
This specific sound is impermanent.
Yeah.
But sound in general is impermanent. So sound in general, what will be the specific causes of sound in general? Well, hard to say, isn't it? If you're just talking about general sound, then you're just talking about general cause and condition. It's a product. You don't have to specify what causes that particular sound that you've got as a subject. So no, it is produced from causes.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yes, well, you're obviously very advanced. Second chapter down.
It's not that. It's just a.
No, but you can see where this reasoning is leading you there, to first chapter is more depth on the particularities of different kinds of reasonings and how to make sure they are valid ones. But then the second chapter, they actually start to use the reasoning on proving Buddha as a valid being and all that, the authority. So, yeah, that's where it all leads to. So
yeah,
that's
this
great.
is good.
Okay, well, is everybody back, or well, it's time to start anyway. Are you there, Jason?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're ready to go, and maybe for the last half hour we'll have another breakout session. Is that all right? Okay, Jace?
Yeah, sorry, I thought I could see. Yeah.
Well, I can't see your picture, but...
Well, if you click on the top right...
Yeah, now I can see you, yeah. So, but at the end of that one, I guess we should all come back together just to say goodbye to each other, isn't we?
Yeah, we can time it so we can make it so it pushes us back to the same room.
So the 5 minutes at the end we'll have as a group. But for the last half hour before that, we'll have another session of discussion in pairs. Yeah.
Yep. Sounds good.
That's what I was thinking. Anyway, so we've got about 50 minutes together. So I think first we just push on a bit with the text. We've got to say we've got through some of the text. So if you don't mind, we'll go on with the second of the three modes of a correct sign, and maybe the third one as well, because it's very much kind of just a mirror image of the second one kind of thing. So it's they both go together closely. So, okay, so the first one, you just leave out the predicate altogether. The first one, you're only thinking about the subject and the sign. So just those two things. There's nothing to do with the predicate what you're actually trying to prove on the sign. That just doesn't come into it at all. So you can just exclude that. And this one now, you don't think about the subject at all. You're just talking about the sign and the predicate. In our case, product and impermanent, just what's going on there. Okay, when you've got these two and added to the first one, you'll just be ready for to realize what we've got to realize. Okay, so at the bottom of page 14 then, the second, have you got your camera on?
No. For you mean for me or for everybody?
Just so other people can see what's going on in this room. I mean, so there's a few of us in this room, just so people get an idea of who they are sometimes. Yeah, so the second, so there's the second of the three modes of a correct sign. By the person for whom it has become the second mode in the second mode of the sign, in the proof of sound as impermanent, it is ascertained as existent solely in the similar class in the proof of sound as impermanent. Is the definition of being the forward pervasion in the proof of sound as impermanent. Okay, so I think we all know what the forward pervasion is in sort of general terms, how to think about it. If it's a product, is it necessarily impermanent? But just to put that in more sort of formal terms and to, you know, get a kind of closer understanding of it. Right then, so as before, we have existent in the decision, in the definition, quite understandably. And oh yeah, well, we're going back to the similar class and dissimilar class, aren't we? Maybe we should look at those again quickly. So if you want to check on the meanings of similar class and dissimilar class, that's the top of page 12. So you've got to bear these in mind now. The similar class and the dissimilar class, what does that mean? So everything that's in the similar class with impermanent, and the dissimilar class, everything that's you know, the opposite, so it's not impermanent. So how is the sign distributed in those two classes? You see, so that's the key issue. So just look at the bottom, at the back, at the top of page 12. The first, similar class, yeah, definition of similar class in the proof of sounds impermanent. That which is in accordance with the mode of proof, not empty of impermanence, in the proof of sound is impermanent. So the two it and impermanent are equivalent. So the similar class and the proof of sound is impermanent and the impermanent are equivalent. So that's, just hang on to that. That's kind of the easiest thing to remember. Now that which is empty of that is the definition of dissimilar class and the proof of that. So the dissimilar class, so that's you know, the sign shouldn't be in the dissimilar class. So the two, well, it shouldn't be, you know, there shouldn't be any overlap, let's say, between the sign and the dissimilar class. That's a better way to say it. No overlapping. So the two it, so that's a dissimilar class in the proof of sound is impermanent and not being impermanent are equivalent. Yeah, and then the dissimilar class has got the, you know, different ways of being in the dissimilar class, different types of dissimilar class. So there are the three: contradictory dissimilar class, and other dissimilar class, non-existent dissimilar class. In the proof of sounds impermanent then, so permanent is the first, contradictory dissimilar class, because permanent is contradictory with impermanent. And then object of knowledge is the second, so that's other dissimilar class. Yeah, so that's like object of knowledge. So it'll be found in the dissimilar class, but also found in the similar class. And then rabbit horn is the third, the non-existent dissimilar class. Yeah, so we're going to play about with those a little bit. Yeah, okay, so remember those, that's because dissimilar class comes in this definition, dissimilar class in the definition of the counter pervasion. So why are we saying existent in the definition? Well, yeah, so this is locating the sign in relation to the predicate. So where does product, you know, where does it exist? What has it got to do with the impermanent? So there's a purpose for stating existent as part of that definition, because it is for the sake of excluding product as a forward pervasion in the proof of sound as permanent. Because suddenly we've changed the sound being permanent now instead of sound as impermanent. Okay, well, get used to that. So in dependence upon this word, existent, you know, it being that, so product being the forward pervasion in the proof of sound as impermanent, or product being the existent in the similar class and the proof of sound as impermanent, should I say, in the proof of sound as permanent now, sorry, confusing, isn't it? In order to eliminate product being a similar class in the proof of sound as permanent, that's eliminated because product does not exist in the similar class in the proof of sound as impermanent. So in the end, what they're saying is fairly simple, yeah? So if you're saying the proof of sound is permanent, then, you know, product being the sign, so product, you know, how does it stand in relation to permanent then? Well, it's not existent in the similar class and the proof of that sign. So the similar class and the proof of that sign is equivalent to permanent then. So product is not found as existing, doesn't exist in that similar class. So product doesn't exist in the similar class. It doesn't exist with permanent. So it's not the similar class. Does not exist in the similar class in that proof. Simply because it's not permanent, right? Okay. So then there's a purpose of stating solely. So it is ascertained as existing solely in the similar class. So this means only in the similar class. Yeah, they use this word solely in some sort of different ways, in different sentences, don't they? But here there is a purpose for stating solely because it is for the sake of excluding object of comprehension as the forward pervasion in the proof sound is impermanent. Yeah, dependence upon this word solely, it being that object of comprehension being, or what is it, existent in the similar class. Yeah, but solely existed in the similar class. No, it does not exist solely in the similar class. In the proof, the sound is impermanent because it exists in both the similar class and the dissimilar class. So it doesn't exist solely in the similar class because it exists in the similar class and the dissimilar class. So the example here is object of comprehension. And the proof is in the proof of sound is impermanent. So we've got the similar class and the dissimilar class in the proof of sound is impermanent. So here we are saying that object of comprehension exists in both the similar class and the dissimilar class. So Hannele, are you there, Hannele? Can't see you. Can't hear you.
I'm here, yeah.
The subject object of comprehension, it follows that it exists in the similar class and the proof of sound is impermanent.
Object of comprehension, did you say?
Yes.
Why, I guess?
Because in this paragraph, at the end, it says, because it, object of comprehension, exists in both the similar class and the dissimilar class and the proof of that.
Okay, accept.
Sound is impermanent.
Yeah, accept.
So the subject object of comprehension, it follows that it exists in the similar class and the proof of sound is impermanent.
Accept.
The subject object of comprehension, it exists in the similar class and the proof of sound is impermanent because
Because it fits.
yeah, it exists in or exists with, the similar class, you could say. I'm not saying it exists solely in the similar class, denying that, but it does exist in the similar class. Because it exists in both the similar class and the dissimilar class. But so what's the reason? Object of comprehension exists in the similar class and the proof of sound is permanent because
Sorry, it exists.
yeah, it's the reason. The subject object of comprehension, it exists in the similar class in the proof of sound as impermanent because
I don't know. Don't know what reason to give. Because
if it is an object of comprehension, is it necessarily not impermanent?
Why?
Example, something which is an object of comprehension but is impermanent.
A stone.
Yeah. Okay, so that's gives us confidence that there is something which is an object of knowledge and is impermanent. So that should be, that's a way to think. So ya'il, the subject, object of comprehension, it follows it is, it does exist in the similar class in the proof of sounds impermanent.
Object of comprehension itself?
The subject object of comprehension, it follows it exists in the similar class in the proof of sounds impermanent.
Yeah.
The subject object of comprehension, it follows it exists in the similar class in the proof of sounds impermanent because
Because you can find things that are impermanent in this category,
in which category?
object of comprehension.
Yeah. So there's something which is an object of comprehension, which is found in the similar class in the proof of sounds impermanent, because there is something which is an object of comprehension and at the same time impermanent.
Yeah.
So that's how you've got to picture it. It doesn't say all objects of comprehension are in the similar class in the proof of sounds impermanent, but some are. So then I think it's okay, you see, to say it exists in the similar class in the proof of sounds impermanent, or it exists with the similar class in the proof of sounds impermanent. So there's some overlap, yeah? There's some correspondence. There's some objects of knowledge which is, which are with some objects of knowledge which are impermanent. I'm not saying they all are. So, but it doesn't exist solely in a similar class. So the subject object of comprehension, it does not exist solely in the similar class in the proof of sounds impermanent. Do you accept that, Francois? Microphone, please.
What did you say?
Subject object of comprehension, we accept it exists in the similar class
Yes,
in the
I
proof
accept.
of sound as impermanent because there's a common base of being object of comprehension and similar class in the proof of sounds impermanent. But is it true to say object of knowledge exists solely in the similar class in the proof of sounds impermanent?
Why?
The subject object of knowledge, it does not exist solely in the dissimilar class in the proof of sounds impermanent.
Not solely in a similar class, yeah. I accept.
So the subject object of knowledge, it does not exist solely in the similar class in the proof of sounds impermanent because?
Because it exists also in a dissimilar class.
Yeah, okay. So the subject object of comprehension, it exists in this dissimilar class in the proof of sounds impermanent.
I accept.
The subject object of knowledge, object of comprehension, it exists in the dissimilar class in the proof of sound as impermanent because?
Because all permanent phenomena are necessarily object of knowledge.
All permanent phenomena are necessarily object of comprehension, you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some overlap, you see. There's something overlap between object of comprehension and dissimilar class and the proof of sound as impermanent. So remember, the dissimilar class and the proof of sound is impermanent. That's equivalent to not impermanent, yeah, not being impermanent. If you can find something like permanent phenomena or uncompounded space or uncomposed space, for instance, on the one hand, that subject is an object of a comprehension, and on the other hand, it is a dissimilar class in the proof of that. Proof of sounds impermanent. So then you've got a common base. So then you can say that, object of comprehension exists in the dissimilar class and the proof of that. It's just like saying, well, does object of knowledge, object of comprehension exist in this room? So then you say, oh, well, yes, that table's an object of comprehension. I'm an object of comprehension. My spectacles are an object of comprehension or something. So yeah, well, then you can say object of comprehension exists in this room because you can posit examples of being an object of comprehension and being in this room. So it's like that. So then object of comprehension is exists in both the similar class and the dissimilar class in the proof of that. So what word in the definition excludes object for comprehension being the forward pervasion in the proof of sound as impermanent, Francois?
Solely?
Yeah, so solely or existence solely in the similar class. It exists in the similar class, but not solely in the similar class. So it's excluded from being the forward pervasion in the proof of sound is impermanent in that way, by that word. But then, just to make sure, just as mirroring the last definition, now what about the position of solely? But what about the position of solely in that sentence? So it's coming in English, it comes, after the existent. But if you put it before existent, what would that mean? It is ascertained as solely existent in the similar class in the proof of sound is impermanent. It is solely existent in the similar class in the proof of sound is impermanent. How would that sound? Well, it might sound all right, but solely existent. Do you remember what we were talking about in the last definition? If it said product solely exists on sound, how are you supposed to understand that, Jake?
Yeah, it always
microphone?
exists there.
Say that again, please.
It's always there. Wherever there's sound, there's always product. They're always together.
Yeah, if product solely exists on sound, then product's got to exist on all sounds. It's never non-existent on any sound, that kind of thing. So if you put solely before existent, it changes the meaning somewhat. But here they're using a different kind of example. They're not using sound as impermanent here. So the next paragraph, there is a purpose for stating solely after existent and not before, because it has the purpose of indicating arisen from effort as the forward pervasion in the proof of sound as impermanent. In dependence upon this phrasing, it being that is understood because arisen from effort exists solely with impermanent, but does not solely exist with impermanent because it does not exist with all of them, because it does not exist with the Rocky Mountain, not arisen from effort. So that's just, getting down to detail a bit. So let's think about that. I'll think that one through. So the sign is arisen from effort, and the proof of sound is impermanent. So you've got sound, it follows it's impermanent because it's arisen from effort. Sound is impermanent because it's arisen from effort, but you don't have to worry about the subject in these cases. You're just thinking, well, sound, is it arisen from effort? Some sound is perfectly natural, So it's not whether the property of the subject is established. Don't worry about that. But between the predicate and the sign, So you've got it is impermanent because it's arisen from effort. So arisen from effort, the subject arisen from effort. Does it exist in the similar class in the proof of sound is impermanent? Jakob.
Accept.
The subject arisen from effort, it follows it exists in the similar class and the proof of sound is impermanent.
Accept.
Yeah. Because?
Because if it is arisen from effort, it's necessarily impermanent.
So if it is arisen from effort, it is necessarily impermanent. Does that mean then that arisen from effort exists in the similar class and the proof of sound is impermanent?
Accept.
Yeah. So you've got arisen from effort having some common base with impermanent at least, yeah? So the subject arisen from effort, does it exist solely in the similar class in the proof of sound is impermanent?
No, why?
So the subject arisen from effort, it does not exist solely in the similar class in the proof of sound is impermanent.
Accept.
So the subject arisen from effort, so it exists also in the dissimilar class in the proof of sound is impermanent.
Why?
Because it exists in the proof in the similar class in the proof of sound is impermanent, but it does not exist solely in the similar class in the proof of sound is impermanent.
Reason established.
It does not exist solely in the similar class and proof of sounds impermanent because it also exists in the dissimilar class and the proof of sounds impermanent. So the subject arisen from effort, it does not exist in the dissimilar class and the proof of sounds impermanent. So yeah, so then the subject arisen from effort, it does exist solely in the similar class and the proof of sounds impermanent.
Accept.
Yeah, because all arisen from effort is in the similar class. Yeah, all the things that are arisen from effort are in the similar class in the sense they're all impermanent. Yeah. Okay, so that's all right. You can say arisen from effort exists solely in the similar class. But if you said arisen from effort, it is solely existent in the similar class, is that correct?
Why?
So the subject arisen from effort, it does not solely exist in the similar class and the proof sound is impermanent.
Accept.
Subject arisen from effort, it does not solely exist in the similar class and proof of sounds impermanent because
If it is impermanent, it is not necessarily arisen from effort.
So if it solely exists with impermanent, then it should exist with all impermanence. Remember that? Product solely exists with sound, so it means it exists whatever, on all sounds. But here we're saying that arisen from effort, it does not solely exist with impermanent because it does not exist with all of them. If it is impermanent, it's not necessarily arisen from effort. Example?
Let's say the Rocky Mountains.
So the subject of Rocky Mountain, if it's not arisen from effort.
Accept.
Yeah, I think arisen from effort here means arisen from the effort of beings. It's not arisen from the effort of the elements, kind of interacting with each other, but arisen from the effort of a being, or human, sentient beings, or anyway, beings. So the Rocky Mountain is not arisen from the effort of beings.
Accept.
So the Rocky Mountain is not arisen from the karma, the karma of sentient beings.
Okay, accept.
It's not. But I thought everything arose from karma, the world and the beings in it.
I'm not sure on this topic.
And it said that all the various worlds are arisen from effort. Isn't that the line from the first? Isn't it the first line from the fourth chapter of the Abhidharma Kosha? All the worlds, all the various worlds are arisen from karma, which is karma is brought about by the effort of beings. But anyway, in this context, it seems like the Rocky Mountain is not arisen from effort. So we're being told that, so we can't argue with that. Well, we can, but our own system is here that it's not. So you have to have an explanation of why not. I guess effort would have to mean deliberate effort. A car crash is arisen from the effort of the beings. We didn't deliberately want to crash a car.
When you in action, motivation, conjoined with consciousness.
Yeah, but it isn't from effort, Of course, the person had to be driving the car and had to fall asleep or, not concentrating, and there's ice on the road. So he slips. He didn't mean to slip. Yeah, anyway, the Rocky Mountain is not, there's something that is not arisen from effort, even though that needs a bit of examination. Yeah, so that's solely has got to be in the right place. If you said solely existent, it wouldn't be right in this case. In this case, you have to say existence solely in the similar class. In the case of arisen from effort being fourth pervasion in the proof of sounds impermanent. And the last one, there's a purpose for stating ascertained because it is for the sake of excluding speaks speech as the forward pervasion in the proof of the person speaking speech ever there being omniscient. So I don't know where that one's supposed to get us. So if you say, if you say the person over there who speaks speech, It follows they're omniscient because they speak speech. So we'd say no probation to that. So okay, we know what the sort of, you know, the target understanding is, but in these terms, so then, you know, if there were a probation, then speaking speech would have to exist solely in the similar class, in the proof of this, the person speaking speech over there being omniscient. So the sign is the person, the subject, the person speaking speech over there. It follows they are omniscient because they speak speech. So posit the similar class in the proof of person over there speaking speech being omniscient. Marco.
Similar class.
Yes.
In which proof?
In the proof of the person speaking speech over there being omniscient by the sign speaking speech. What would you say is the similar class?
Speaking speech.
No, that's a sign. The subject, the person over there, is omniscient because he speaks speech. So we'll have to omniscience, yeah. Remember, if it's a similar class and proof of sounds impermanent, then it's just equivalent to impermanent. That which is not empty of impermanence in accordance with the mode of proof. So in the proof of sounds impermanent, you know, it's just permanent, impermanent and it are equivalent. So here, similar kind of, you know, statement where it's just an is mode of statement. So that which is not empty of omniscience, or you can just say, you know, being omniscient, you know. So that's a similar class. So then we have to ask the sign, speaking speech or speak speech, is that, you know, does that exist solely in the similar class in the proof of sounds impermanent? Sorry, in the proof of the person speaking speech over there being omniscient. So does speaking speech exist solely in the similar class in that proof?
Speaking speech exists solely in being omniscient.
Yeah.
No, why?
Example? They speak speech, but they're not omniscient. Who could that be? Well, it could be me.
Yeah.
Marco's keeping strangely quiet. He's not mentioning.
I said me.
He did. Okay, me and Marco then. So that's so there's no ascertaining. You know, the sign has existence solely in the similar class. No ascertaining. So there's nobody who ascertains that. You know, this comes back again later in the book as well. It may be in the second, in the third mode of a correct sign. So it isn't finished. It's just introducing this new type of example here. But anyway, you know, if somebody speaks speech, is that a sign that they're omniscient? Well, no, it isn't. But it's not a sign that they're not omniscient. You know, so it can be, you know, how would you ascertain just because he speaks speech he's necessarily omniscient? Well, you can't ascertain that. Is that guy who is speaking speech, does that mean he's omniscient? Well, you can't ascertain it. And does it mean he's not omniscient because he's speaking speech? Well, you can't ascertain that either. You know, so ascertained is something. It's kind of needed somehow. Like there's got to be a person for whom it is a correct sign anyway. So that's everything on the second mode of the sign. So we better keep going.
I've got a question there.
Yeah.
Did we say that speaking speech only exists on omniscience?
No. If that was a correct sign, we would say speaking speech exists solely in the similar class. It exists solely with omniscient. But we're not saying it is a correct sign. But if it was a correct sign, it would have to be ascertained as existing solely in that,
Okay.
with omniscience. But we're saying we can't ascertain that. In fact, we know it's not true, so it's not ascertained because we know it's not true. It cannot be ascertained by anybody.
But if it were only speech, if only speaking speech
If speaking speech only
existed
existed solely in the similar class,
on omniscience, then it would follow that an omniscience would necessarily speech. An omniscience would necessarily speak speech.
well, no, you'd say like arisen from effort exists solely with impermanent. So anything that's arisen from effort, is impermanent, but it is necessarily impermanent. It doesn't mean anything that's impermanent has to be arisen from effort.
Okay.
Yeah, so you've got to play about with these things.
Can I ask a quick question, Geshe?
Yeah.
So the mode of statement is or exists.
So far, yes.
Yeah, so far, yeah. So I'm just wondering, does that mean one nature? If I say something is something, what I'm ultimately saying is that it's one nature with.
Sound is impermanent, you mean, or if it is a product, it's necessarily impermanent. Are you thinking about just the is, or
Is.
as part of the perversion? Just is in general.
Is in general, yeah. Wherever we use it is would mean one nature. So pot is impermanent would mean, pot is one nature with impermanent.
Yeah, but if you say this pot is arisen from wet clay, is using is, but then arisen makes it. Pot is the effect of the wet clay, isn't it? So then there wouldn't be a pot and the wet clay are not one nature. But then you're using the word effect, yeah. You're using the word effect. So
yeah, and that is true.
Effect of clay. Pot is an effect of clay. So it's not. Pot is in the class of being, one of the effects of clay or something, So
Yeah, so that would still be one nature.
Pot and clay are the same nature, then, are they?
No, yeah, sorry, but yeah, whatever the two things you're positing, they are one nature. So effect of pot being an effect of clay, that statement is one nature with being an effect of clay or something, or whatever you say.
Pot is one nature with effect of clay. Yes, that would be all right.
Yeah.
But it's just not one nature with clay. It's not. Pot is arisen from clay. So pot and being arisen from clay, are they one nature? Well, maybe they are. But it's like saying pot is an effect of clay, isn't it? Yes. So what does it mean? Like you're putting the one thing into another category, aren't they?
Yeah.
So what?
They're
In the same category, then they would have to be the same nature. But object of knowledge, exists with impermanent. You wouldn't say object of knowledge is impermanent, but it exists with impermanent. Yeah. So yes, that's good. Yeah.
that helps.
Let's go a bit more quickly through the last of the third mode because we need a bit of time before we have the breakout session. So a little bit more quickly here. So this is the third mode of the correct sign, which is the counter pervasion. Some people translate it as reverse pervasion. What does Catherine Rogers say? Does she say reverse or counter? Yeah. Catherine Rogers' book, Tibetan Logic, that's the best book to read if you need some more background on this. So I think she says counter pervasion. I probably use the same word as she did just to make it easier. And Purdue probably uses the same word as she does in his debate book. So that's probably why I chose counter pervasion. But some people say reverse pervasion are different ways of translating, which is the same word in Tibetan. So by the person for whom it has become the third mode of the sign in the proof of sounds impermanent, it is ascertained as only non-existent in the dissimilar class in the proof of sounds impermanent. So it's going to be completely non-existent in the dissimilar class. So product, if it's going to be a correct sign, it cannot exist in the dissimilar class. It cannot be permanent. And there can't be anything which is a product which is permanent, yeah? Permanent class, has to be completely empty of product. That's kind of what it's saying, right? It must be only non-existent, so completely non-existent, only non-existent in the dissimilar class. So any examples of product, they've always got to be not found in the dissimilar class, right? In the proof of sound is permanent. Is the definition of it being the count of evasion in the proof of sounds impermanent. So if the forward evasion is true, then the counter evasion will be true. So if one's there, then the other one will be there. So that they like both. One being there guarantees the other being true. If it is the forward evasion, it necessarily will definitely be the counter evasion as well. But it depends on the sign. Sometimes it's easy to think of the sign in terms of the counter evasion. So it's more easy to kind of get a kind of a clear conception of what's the relation between the sign and the predicate. Sometimes it's easier to exclude the sign from the dissimilar class in your thinking than it is to say they're all there in the similar class. It just depends on the sign, you see. Anyway, so just quickly go through this. Then there is a purpose for stating non-existent as part of that, because it is for the sake of excluding product as a counter evasion in the proof of sound as permanent. And depends upon this word, it being that is eliminated, because product exists in the dissimilar class in the proof of sound as permanent. So now we've got, for some reason, sound as permanent. Anyway, we're not worried about sound. It doesn't matter about that. It's permanent and product. So does permanent exist in the dissimilar class? So the dissimilar class in the proof of sound is permanent. So what would you posit as the dissimilar class in the proof of sound as permanent, Renata?
Pot.
Well, what would you say is the equivalent of the dissimilar class in the proof of sound as permanent? Pot is an example, that's fine, yeah.
The permanent, the impermanent.
Yeah, not being permanent, precisely, not being permanent. Empty being permanent. So it isn't necessarily just impermanent that goes in there. So, yeah, but product, you see, if the dissimilar class is not being permanent or empty of permanent, yeah, well, product could be in there, can't it? So product is in the dissimilar class. So product can't be the reverse pervasion in the proof of, something being permanent. It can't be permanent because it's a product, because product's found with impermanent things too. So hard luck. There's a purpose for stating only because it is for the sake of excluding impermanent as a counter pervasion in the proof of sound of a conch as arisen from effort. So the sound of a conch, it is impermanent because it's the sound of a conch, it is arisen from effort because it's impermanent. That's right. The sound of a conch, which is, I think they're talking about a sound which we've blown from the conch by, a human being like a monk calling the other monk to lunch or something. The sound of a conch, it's arisen from effort because it's impermanent. See, that's shaky, isn't it? Just because it's impermanent, does it have to be arisen from effort? Dubious, doubtful. So that's not looking good. So how is that eliminated? Well, only. It depends upon this word, only, it being that is eliminated, because impermanent is not only non-existent in the dissimilar class, in the proof of sound as a conch has arisen from exertion, because if it is a dissimilar class in the proof of that, it is not necessarily impermanent, and not necessarily not impermanent, because lightning, the dissimilar class in the proof of that, is impermanent and space is not. So you'll have to think about that. And I just got to think I put exertion there. Maybe that should be effort. Maybe that's a mistranslation. above, earlier in the sentence, I've got effort, but lower down it's exertion. I'll have to check that from in the Tibetan. I wouldn't think there are different words in Tibetan. It's just, yeah, tsiljung. Yeah, so I think it'll be, that's kind of, when I was translating it, I hadn't decided which word to use, and bad editing. But we'll see. That doesn't really matter. Same thing. Okay, so we want to make sure if it's a sign in the proof of sound of a conscious being arisen from effort, it mustn't exist in the dissimilar class. But the trouble is, if you're using the sign impermanent does exist in the similar class, in the dissimilar class, and the proof of that. There is something which is impermanent, which is not arisen from effort, such as the Rocky Mountain. Or what does he say? Lightning here, lightning. Yeah, lightning is impermanent, but it's not arisen from effort. So just by saying it's impermanent, it has to be arisen from effort. No way. So there is some impermanent which is stuck in the dissimilar class. So it's not a sort of a sign where you've got the sign sort of what does it say? Only non-existent. Yeah, no, it stopped using the word solely. It uses another word, only. So they are two different words in Tibetan. So it's not only non-existent in the similar class. It's not only non-existent in the similar class, because some of impermanent does exist in the dissimilar class. Yeah, so we'll have to think about that. See how there's the impermanent splits. You see, some of them are arisen from effort, some are not arisen from effort. So some are in the dissimilar class, some are in the similar class. I won't make a correct sign. The correct sign's got to be empty of the sign, you see. Okay, so now the last one, there is a purpose for stating only before non-existent and not after, because it is for the sake of indicating arisen from effort as the counter-pervasion in the proof of sound as a conscious impermanent. So now we've got a sign that seems to be correct then, have we? Yeah, so now we've switched the predicate and the sign around, see, so we've got the sound of a conscious, it is impermanent because it's arisen from effort. So when it's that way around, that sounds much better, you see. The sound of a conch, it is impermanent because it's arisen from effort. So then we stand a chance of that being a correct sign now. But it's just it's important where you put the sound, where you put the word only. So you're going to press a key, are you? Or I've got to press a key. Yeah, okay. Right, so let me read the rest of the paragraph then. Okay, so in dependence upon this phrasing, the way you put the only before non-existent, it being that can be understood because arisen from effort is solely non-existent in the dissimilar class, in the proof of sound as a conscious impermanent. Solely non-existent, so it's existent in all the dissimilar class. Sorry, it's non-existent in all the dissimilar class, solely non-existent. So you never find it in the dissimilar class. It's not just non-existent in a part of the dissimilar class, but it's non-existent in all the dissimilar class, solely non-existent in the dissimilar class, and the proof of sound as a conscious impermanent, but is not non-existent solely in the dissimilar class in the proof of that, because it is also non-existent with a rocky mountain, not arisen from effort, the similar class in the proof of that. It may be explained in that way. So you've got to put the only in the right place then. Only non-existent. Don't say it's non-existent only in the dissimilar class. Say it's only non-existent in the dissimilar class. Yeah, because that sign arisen from effort, it is existent in the dissimilar class completely, but it's also non-existent in a part of the similar class. Yeah, so it's not dissimilar. It's not non-existent solely in the dissimilar class because it's also non-existent in part of the similar class. So that's why they're trying to talk. Oh, well, it's time for a breakout session, you see. They spent too long talking about that, you see. I knew that would happen. So let's look at a quick debate then. So I'm looking at the debate on page 45. So this one here, which is quite long, oh my gosh. Is that the one I want? Yeah, sorry, it's a bit long. So anyway. With respect to the forward pervasion, so that's what, it's one about the pervasion now. By the person for whom it has become the second mode in the proof of sound is impermanent, it is ascertained as existing solely in the similar class in the proof of sound is impermanent. So they were talking about the forward pervasion now, not the reverse, the counter pervasion. So that is the definition of being the forward pervasion in the proof of sounds impermanent because of your acceptance. See, it has to exist solely in the similar class. If you accept, yes, which I think we should. That's how we define the forward pervasion. So accept. The subject product, it follows it exists solely in the similar class in the proof of sounds impermanent because of your acceptance. Yes, okay. If accepted, then the subject, that subject, which is product, isn't it? Product. It follows it does not exist in the dissimilar class in the proof of sounds impermanent because it exists solely in the similar class in the proof of sounds impermanent. Accept. Shall we? Yes, yeah. That's what we generally. That's our own position. So the subject. It does not exist in the dissimilar class and the proof of sounds impermanent because it exists. So, sorry. Now this is where the challenge is coming in with his attempt to show us that we aren't quite got it right. So that subject product, it does exist in the dissimilar class and the proof of sounds impermanent because it exists in the other dissimilar class. Do you remember the three types of dissimilar class? Contradictory dissimilar class, other dissimilar class, non-existent dissimilar class. If not established, that subject, it follows that it exists in the other dissimilar class, and the proof of that, a proof of sounds impermanent, because it exists in the other dissimilar class object of knowledge. Do you remember the three dissimilar classes? So you have contradictory dissimilar class, such as permanent, and then other dissimilar class, such as object of knowledge, and non-existent dissimilar class, such as graviton. So object of knowledge is the other dissimilar class, and the proof of sounds impermanent. And product exists there, not established. That subject, it follows it does not exist in object of knowledge because of your acceptance. If accepted, the subject product, it does exist in object of knowledge because it is an object of knowledge. There is a pervasion, because if it is an object of knowledge, it necessarily exists in object of knowledge. That follows because the two, permanent function thing, exist in object of knowledge. Please debate. So we said, existing with object of knowledge or existing within object of knowledge, then it sort of is a common base, it's all right, isn't there? So if it is an object of knowledge, it has to exist in object of knowledge or with object of knowledge. So product does that. It is an object of knowledge, therefore it exists with object of knowledge. Therefore it exists in the dissimilar class of the proof of sounds impermanent, object of knowledge. So then it exists in the dissimilar class in the proof of sounds impermanent. So it can't exist solely in the similar class in the proof of sounds impermanent. So it can't be a correct forward pervasion in the proof of sounds impermanent. So just, mull over that debate. I've gone very quickly. So if you want a new debate to talk about in your last half hour, try that one. Or go back to one of the other ones, just as you like, whatever suits you and the person you're paired off with. So can we break up into pairs, Jason? Random pairs? And then at the last 5 minutes, at 25 past.
5 minutes
5 minutes 2,
So
and
we'll
we'll come back together.
So we break up for 27 minutes then.
Yeah.
Can't see where the option is. Oh, I think you're the host now, Geshe Graham. So you have to make me host.
How do I do that?
On my video, there's 3 little dots. If you click on it, then make me host.
There you are.
Great. There we go. Right.
So see you in half an hour then.
Yeah, just need to put a time on it. Okay. Hello.
Hello, I'm moving to my room.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Good.
we had a
Sounds like you're
bit of confusion.
on track or on topic at least.
Yeah, it was object of comprehension in the syllogism. Sound is impermanent because it's an object of comprehension. I was confused because I would have said that object of comprehension is necessarily dissimilar class in the proof of sound impermanent, because object of comprehension is empty of impermanence. And so I couldn't work out why objective comprehension could be, in that syllogism, both similar example in the proof of sounds impermanent. Similar class, sorry. And also dissimilar class in the proof of sounds impermanent. How could it be both? So then we came to the conclusion that if it is an object of knowledge, then you can posit something in both classes.
Yeah. So you have to make a distinction. Object of knowledge is the dissimilar class in the proof of sounds impermanent, but it exists in or with the similar class and the dissimilar class.
Because there is both impermanent and permanent instances of object knowledge.
There's a common base of it and one and it and the other. Okay. But it itself is the dissimilar class.
Yeah, that's great. I was confused on that.
Yeah, well, that's stimulating you to work these things out. Okay, then. So that's just about it for today. So we can, come back to the questions that have been raised and not solved in the discussion or debate time next class. So that was a bit nice to have a bit of a longer session together. And it's great if you've had a chance to meet somebody you've not met before who's in the same class, but you haven't had dialogue with them until now because of limitations of distance. All right then, so but just a reminder, or just to tell people, I think Jason's maybe going to send out a message, but just to tell you that I'm actually going to Bodhicitta Land on October the 27th, which is a Tuesday. So, and then there's a Thursday class for those who are in the Thursday Buddhapalata Nagarjuna class. That's on the 29th. So those 2 classes, they're not possible. And they might be on the original schedule because, you know, going up to the end of October, but I'll be leaving Nalanda on the 27th, Tuesday the 27th of October. So those two classes, the 27th, 29th, Tuesday and Thursday won't happen. Okay. So after that, it'll be like next year time, you know. Maybe in January, I'm going to be back here teaching Lamrim, so then maybe we can carry on with these subjects. Because I don't think we're going to get them finished just in the last 2 or 3 sessions we have together. But anyway, that's that. Best we can do. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thanks a lot. Lord Geshe. Bye bye.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.